Iraq news highlights and points to ponder Saturday afternoon, September 21, 24. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. Government confirms its adoption of a constructive economic policy. Time: the 20th of September 2024. Read 1820 times. Politics. Al Farad News. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani met today, Friday, with the head of the Victory Coalition, Haider al-Abadi, where the meeting witnessed discussions on a number of issues and files related to the work of the legislative and executive authorities. The two sides reviewed ways to enhance cooperation and accelerate the basic requirements for implementing the government program in various fields. During the meeting, al-Sudani stressed that the government is adopting a constructive economic policy, improving the level of services that citizens receive from state agencies, alleviating their suffering, and completing the infrastructure that will provide an additional boost to development projects at various levels. Oil and gas parliamentary. There is a major failure in the work of the Internal Control Department at the Ministry of Oil. Politics, Security and Economy. September 20, 2024. The Parliamentary Oil and Gas Committee identified a major failure and a number of observations regarding the work of the Director of the Internal Control Department at the Ministry of Oil. The committee's spokesman, Ali Shaddad, told Al-Murbad that his committee hosted the Director of the Internal Control Department at the Ministry of Oil. And after directing a number of questions to him, it became clear that there were many delays in the work of the department. And it had become one of the departments that repelled cadres specialized in internal control, despite the fact that they were cadres who had undergone important training and were linked to financial control. However, there were 35 employees who left the Internal Control Department during the current director's tenure, and it is not easy to dispense with them. Shaddad added that a number of questions were put to the director regarding suspicions of corruption in some contracts that were flagged by the Federal Financial Supervision Bureau. In addition to the failure of the Director of Special Supervision to adhere to the directives of the Minister of Oil, so the work in the department began to decline despite the importance of its work. Pointing out that the Parliamentary Oil Committee decided that this hosting would be open until the next session, which will be determined later by the Oil and Gas Committee. It is due to Iran and Russia. Iraq and Saudi Arabia have fallen from the top oil exporters to China. The 21st of September 2024. 3:34 Shafaq News. The Iraq Al-Mustaqbal Foundation for Economic Studies and Consultations attributed, on Saturday, the reason for the decline of both Iraq and Saudi Arabia from the ranks of the largest oil exporters to China to the incentives provided by the Russians and Iranians to increase the purchase of their raw materials. The institution stated in a report published today that Russia acquired 22% of China's oil imports in August 2024, at prices less than 6% of the average purchase prices. He added that the Iranians, through Malaysia, acquired 17% of China's oil imports and less than 10% of the average price, which pushed both Iraq and Saudi Arabia to fall from the position of the largest exporters of crude oil to China, which is the largest market. According to the institution's report, during last July, the average price of Russian oil was less than 4% of the average price, while the average price of Iranian oil was less than 7.5%. Meaning that both parties increased their incentives to China to continue China's dependence on the oil of the two countries, even if at prices lower than the offered rates. The institution attached to its report a detailed table on oil sales to countries that deal with China, as listed below. Escalating demands to expose corruption in Iraqi ports, a threat to the national economy. Posted on the 21st of September 2024 by Sotalarak. The Iraqi arena is witnessing increasing demands to uncover corruption files in Iraqi ports, as these ports are among the most important vital facilities for the Iraqi economy. Suspicions have increased about financial and administrative irregularities in import and export operations, which have negatively affected government revenues. Political and parliamentary parties are demanding transparent investigations to uncover those involved and hold them accountable. Considering that corruption in these institutions contributes to the deterioration of the economic situation and hinders development and reform plans. This comes at a time when Iraq is seeking to strengthen financial oversight and achieve transparency in government institutions. Independent MP Yasser al-Husseini says, the most dangerous corruption file in the Iraqi government is the file of the General Company for Iraqi Ports, where there is a waste of money and a lack of engagement with the voices calling for stopping this corruption. He added, the government has ignored the port's corruption file, although the ministerial program stipulates combating corruption, as there are corruption files that will not be investigated even with the end of the current government's term, especially in the General Ports Company. Al-Husseini calls on the government to pay attention to the voices calling for withdrawing the current management of the aforementioned company, and to open a fair judicial investigation to look into the number of identified violations. For his part, the head of the Parliamentary Security and Defense Committee, Karim Alivi al-Muhammadawi, revealed suspicions of corruption in the manipulation of types of cars and customs clearance at ports and border crossings. Al-Muhammadawi says, there is a lack of oversight operations and a lack of coordination between the security and oversight agencies within the Iraqi ports and border crossings, as the competent oversight agencies are required to play their role in reducing suspicions of corruption and preserving public money. In this context, MP Allah al-Haidari, a member of the Iraqi Ports Corruption Investigation Committee, said, "We were surprised to find a shipment of about 20,000 tons of yellow corn that was rotten and spoiled inside a ship coming from Australia. There were approvals from some government agencies to unload this shipment, so we were surprised to find about 6,000 tons of yellow corn unloaded in the warehouses of a Turkish factory used to receive cooking oil in the port of Qasr." He added, "We found that the contract included that the yellow corn coming from Australia was used for oil, and after it was spoiled, its quality was changed to animal feed because it was exposed to rot. After examining this material, it became clear that it was not suitable for animal feed, nor was it suitable as cooking oil." He explained, the opinion of the Parliamentary Order 160 Committee to investigate port corruption was to reserve and inform the Director of the Southern Ports and the Customs Administration not to unload the remaining shipment from these warehouses. But the information received indicates that approximately 14,000 tons of this damaged shipment were unloaded from these warehouses, stressing that every party that gave approval to unload this shipment will bear responsibility for negligence, and an investigation will be opened into this dangerous file. It is noteworthy that the Ministry of Finance and the Customs Authority are seriously seeking to make new progress in implementing the ASYCUDA system in the Grand Welcome Square at Basra ports in rapid procedures to generalize information technology and limit commercial transactions electronically, as is happening in more than 80 countries around the world. At the beginning of 2024, the Iraqi General Customs Authority announced that its revenues during the past year amounted to 1,033,765,697,521 Iraqi dinars, an increase of 28% compared to 2022, expressing its hope to maximize its revenues during 2024 after completing the implementation of electronic systems in all customs centers. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. Source: Dinar Recaps.